Hi, I'd like to welcome everybody to our 2021 high-tech presentation on biotechcareers.org, a model career website for the skilled technical workforce. Biotechcareers.org is an online resource for biotechnology career exploration with jobs, articles, employers, and much more. My name is Sandra Porter. I've been working in biotechnology for over 30 years, 10 years as an instructor at a biotechnology program at a community college. I ran the program, 10 years at a bioinformatics company. I've been doing websites for a long time. I built my first one when I was at Seattle Central teaching, but I've also been blogging. I made an iPad app for structural biology, and I've been a PI and co-PI on multiple ATE grants. Todd?
Yes, and I'm Todd Smith, Sandy's partner in crime. I have a PhD in medicinal chemistry, which has been awesome for working in biotechnology, which I've done working in the industry for 30 plus years. Part of that, a good portion, is I built and sold a bioinformatics company, Geospiza. We did DNA sequence analysis systems, and one of our products, Finch TV, which is a desktop app for looking at chromatograms from Sanger sequencing, is still widely used. I've been developing web-enabled systems since 1994, and I'm a co-PI on the Antibody Engineers Grant, and I mentor entrepreneurs in synthetic biology, genomics, and structural biology. So today what we want to do is talk about biotech careers, but first let's begin with the mission and vision. So the mission has always been to increase interest in biological science, technology, engineering, and math, STEM, by communicating career opportunities and pathways for all individuals with an emphasis on entry-level jobs for high school and two-year college graduates. And I think there's a really great story in how this site started, and that was by you, Sandy.
Well, not just me. I had some help as well. But the site started because BioLink, the previous National Advanced Technology Education Center for Biotechnology, used to do an annual survey of the community. And the community said they would really appreciate having a career site with information about the kinds of careers in biotechnology. At the time, there were sites that had information about careers, but most of those careers focused on jobs that required a PhD. And the community wanted to see information about actual biotech jobs, not just research scientists at the NIH. They wanted to see what people do in biotech, what the titles of the jobs are, and where students might be able to get the education to pursue those jobs.
Yeah, and I'll point out that was in 2012. We're coming up on 10 years as kind of the minimum time frame to become an overnight success, and we'll see that later. But it's really led to our vision that biotech careers can become the go-to resource for helping educators and employers increase students' interest in pursuing careers in science by communicating the diversity of opportunities that exist in the biotechnology industry. A theme of biotechnology careers is really to show employers and jobs. And we think that's important in getting students interested in pursuing these scientific careers. If they know there's jobs, they're going to be more likely to go into these fields. So the site provides industry-related job descriptions, blogs, and videos, along with internships and job postings. We have day-in-the-life interviews with technicians working in the industry, and the largest freely available directory of biotech employers organized by a rich vocabulary of terms that define the kinds of science and work taking place in this exciting industry. And we're going to see biotech has a lot of different kinds of activities. So let's look at the site. So in this page, we're showing on the left-hand side, the homepage to Biotech Careers. And on the right-hand side, a few points that we've already mentioned. It began in 2012, provides biotech career and industry information, includes education materials, job search capabilities, and an extensive employer database. And we emphasize entry-level job information. That was the mission from the very beginning. And it's used widely in schools by industry professionals and what we call the biotech curious. And this last point is something that we're very proud of. So the site content is organized by a series of landing pages. And the landing pages can be accessed on every page of the site by going to the top in an area that we call the navigation bar, where there's 6 links: careers, job areas, blogs, people, videos, biotech companies, and biotech jobs. The careers page is just what it says. It's a page about the careers, gives you some information, some education, the education that goes into biotech, and closes with biotech job descriptions. Job areas organize that information to sectors of biotechnology. So agricultural biotechnology has many kinds of jobs that somebody could have, and that's how they find out what jobs are related to that area. And there's many of these. Blogs are a way for us to use informal communication mechanisms to help teachers understand how to use the site. Classroom activities for exploring biotech careers. Also to comment on what's going on in the industry. What's so hard about making a few billion vaccine doses? And you can learn about the mRNA and the mRNA vaccines by Moderna and Pfizer by reading this blog and interacting with the graphic. The people link takes you to the alumni profile. So these are stories about graduates who are working in the industry. Videos provide more information about working in biotech and what biotech is about, and also things that we prepare about the site, like our About Biotech Careers video, which is a 90-second tour of the Biotech Careers site that we did for the ATEPI meeting. Biotech Companies takes you to that extensive employer database, and we're going to see more of this along with the Biotech Jobs landing page, which is how you can learn what jobs are available. Altogether, the site has an immense amount of content. We have 33 career descriptions, 36 job areas, 47 blogs and articles, 60 alumni profiles, 60 videos, 11 employers, and over 4,000 links to employer career pages. And we mentioned that biotech is a diverse industry. And we have keywords that characterize this industry. In fact, we have 541 of those keywords, give or take, depending on the day. We've merged or added more. And altogether, that makes 9,000 pages. It's a big site. And there's more. Every web page also has what we call a footer. And these are links that are at the bottom of the web page. Many of these links are some that you've already seen that are in the nav bar, but others are to specific pages in the site. So for example, you could view some biotech news. You could combine companies into your own views of by combining keywords, or you could learn the biotech lingo and visit some games and test your knowledge of biotechnology.
Todd, with 9,000 pages and all these other features that the site has, how do you manage to keep it up to date and handle design changes and manage all this?
Well, that's a great question. 9,000 is a lot of pages. The primary thing we do is it's built on top of what we call a content management system, or a CMS. CMSs are a common architecture now for building websites. Many in the ATE community are familiar with WordPress. Some are familiar with Drupal, and others are familiar with another one called Joomla. But altogether, these allow people to enter data into sites very easily and structure that information. Drupal is something we've had experience with, and it's been around for 20 years. This is one of the first CMSs, and it has a general architecture that lends itself very well to the kinds of content and the integration of information that we like to build. So there's a general architecture that allows us to create information entities called content types, fields, so we can collect specific data. Taxonomies are ways to organize the content by terms. And then views is a rich query architecture that allows us to mix and match data in a lot of different ways. And what's important is the Drupal community is an active open source development community. So it helps us with our security. And then the members of the community produce a lot of very useful modules that we can use in the site. Relationships between the data, filtering data, user interface, export and import. And speaking of that, there's modules that help us check links. So one of the big challenges with 8,500 companies in biotechnology is they come and go. So we find them by reading the news and we put them into the site, but when they go away, what do? Well, we check the links, and we can find out when companies have disappeared from the internet, either through a merger or other means, and we unpublish them. And so that way we can keep the data, fairly up to date. The Drupal community itself, there's over 1 million deployments, so that helps us with keeping things up to date and maintaining security. Some of the notable Drupal sites, well, one was the Obama White House, NSF. is moving toward Drupal, and there's beta.nsf.gov. Many universities, major pharma and biotech, and 73% of the top media and news companies use Drupal. So it's very performant. It supports high data, high user access, all of the things we need, and it's built on common standards. And so that's, we have a lot of content in the site. We have a way to manage that content. But then there's, how do you use the site? And Sandy, you've been doing a lot of presentations, and I think you've come up with a very nice way to present that. So maybe you can take us through some of the pieces.
Thanks, Todd. I find the easiest way to describe exploring the site, or to think about how to begin exploring, is to think about 3 different kinds of pathways. We can explore the site by looking at the people, learn about the kinds of people working in biotech and what they're like. We can explore by looking at places, find out where companies are and what they do. Or we can look at things and explore what biotechnology companies are doing by looking for exciting topics. You can go to the next slide. We'll start with people. Really, I think the path a given student might take might correspond to what they find interesting. If they find people interesting and they want to know, will they fit in? What would the job be like? They can go to people. They'll learn about alumni from 2-year community college programs and see what they're doing. A lot of these profiles describe their entry-level careers. We have interviews with them talking about where they went to school, what they do day to day, what kind of degree they got, and advice that they might have for anybody thinking about pursuing a career in biotechnology. We can also learn more about the area that they work in and look at other profiles or videos or blogs. We can continue to the next slide. And we can see descriptions of the job titles and careers. If I were to look at any one of these kind of cards that we have describing the careers, I can see the education that's needed. I can see the colleges that offer that training. And I can learn about what you might get paid on the job. And I have links also to job searches that would start with that job. And continue. Now I'd like to go live for a couple minutes, and I have slides that will have what I say in here so you can refer back to them a little bit later. So now I'm going to show you how we would search for places. I find that we're going to go to biotech jobs right now. I find that students are a lot more interested in a topic if they think they're going to be able to get a job in that area. The students are really practical. They like to know, what's the fallback position? All right, if something doesn't pan out, can I still get a job, and how long will it take me to get the education I need to do this? So they can go straight to biotech jobs and find 3 beginning ways to start looking for jobs. We have some featured jobs from our sponsors. We have databases, which I'll come to in just a moment. And we also have employer career pages and internship pages that they can search with their city and find out what companies are in their city, and find out whether or not those companies have a career page on their website. And I'm going to show you how we use databases. So to use the job databases, we click that button in the middle that says search for jobs. There is a pre-constructed term in the initial search, which is biotechnology. And if I look here, it's going to find all the biotechnology jobs in my area. It's going to use the IP address to figure out where I'm located and look for jobs within 25 miles of wherever I am. I can see here we've got 123 biotech related jobs in the Seattle area. But maybe I want to look at a bigger area than 25 miles. I can change this to my state. Just type the 2-letter name for my state. And in Washington, I see there's 131 jobs. So most of the jobs in Washington appear to be in the Seattle area. I could select the card for any one of these jobs if I want to learn more, or if I want to apply for those jobs. I might also be interested in knowing about the entire United States. So I can type US, And now I'll see that today there's 7,385 biotech related jobs in the United States. There are some limits on what we can show in the database. So you can see that we only display 500, but we can use terms, more specific job titles. We can use more specific locations to narrow that number that are displayed. You can see we also have some other terms that we might try searching at the top, like biomanufacturing or other alternatives. And we also have one other database in here as well. If you notice, it says try our other job search page in the text at the top, and it will show you the data from another job search. Since all databases can only show you what's there by using a combination, you can do a little bit better at finding something that might meet your needs. Okay, now another way to search, if we go up to the top towards the right-hand side of the nav bar, we see biotech companies. You can click that. If I go to the biotech company page, I get 3 kinds of maps. I can see all the biotech companies all over the world. Well, maybe not all of them, but a lot of them all over the world. I can see biotech companies across the US where I could drill down into the US by using that map, or I could search, I could look at companies by state. And I find this is a really helpful place to begin if I'm first looking at things. I can click a state. Why don't you do that, Todd? Thanks. Like Washington, for example. And I can see the top business areas that companies work on in each state. The size of the word reflects the number of companies that work on that topic. And I can see in Washington right now, the largest number of companies are working on medical devices, and next on cancer therapeutics. These business areas, by the way, are different with each state. So it's kind of interesting to click different states and see what kinds of things companies focus on in the different states.
Sounds like a great exercise for students.
Absolutely. I can also look at my map, and I can see here in Washington, we have 305 companies in the Seattle area. I can zoom into the map. Can you demonstrate that? All right, so I can zoom into the map a little bit more, and if I wanted to look at any specific companies, I could click the blue dots and I would see the name of the company and a link to the record in our database. That record would have additional information about the company and a link to their website. And if they have a career page, it would have links that go directly to that career page. The other things I might be interested in looking at here is I could filter by whether or not companies have hired community college students. Can you click that? Yes, and see what happens. So I click the radio button and I can see here that in Seattle, we have 43 companies that have hired students from community colleges. I could also filter companies by whether or not they have career information or internship information. We've found that a lot of companies are 1 person or 2 people and a mouse, perhaps. They're not necessarily hiring. So if you're going to be looking for jobs, you're wise to spend your time looking at companies that actually are hiring people. And if a company has career information, you can go directly to those pages and click the links to view their career site. And now let's go back to the slide presentation. Okay, so we talked about places. Just a reminder, if you're looking at databases, different titles are helpful. Expanding your search range by trying your state is helpful. You can also look at the other database. That's helpful as well. Okay, so we've talked about people, we've talked about places. Now let's talk about things. Companies use over 541 keywords to describe themselves. This number varies from day to day. And we've made a word cloud that shows all these terms with the size of the word reflecting the number of companies that use that term to describe themselves. And we have some different ways to drill down into that word cloud. Here, I have picked algae. And if I click that link, if I click the word algae, I'll get to a page that has all the algae companies, which we have over 80 of. And I can see that those companies are broken out by other terms. Those other terms come from the other words that companies use to describe themselves. So if I'm wondering, what does an algae company do? I can look at this and I can see that there are 22 of them that work on nutritional supplements. I think several that work on food, biofuels, synthetic biology. So I get a breakdown of what does it mean to be an algae company. I could drill down into those terms further by selecting the links. I can also look at the company records themselves that are shown below the map and click any one of those company records to learn about it. And if I were interested in knowing how many jobs are there in algae, you can see that we have that job search. This time it's going to be pre-filled with algae. I could click that and I could see how many algae jobs are in my area or in any area I want to choose in the United States, in my state, or in the US. Or I could look at the other database.
Wow. So there must be over 500 ways to search jobs, Biotech Careers.
There are a lot. But it's interesting, I think, to find out what kinds of companies are in your neighborhood and what they're doing. So actually, we also have some information about people that visit the site, because we get a lot of traffic. Can you tell us more about that, Todd?
I can. And what we're showing here is on the audience page is our cumulative visits by year. And you can see since 2012 to now, June 2021, we've had very good growth. In fact, this year we're going to go over 4 million pages from 2 million visits. And we estimate that about 25% of those visits are from schools.
Well, that's an interesting number. How can you tell that?
Well, we can do it by looking deeper at the analysis logs. So Google Analytics provides us a lot of information. We use that in another product called Stat Counter. And there's really two kinds of ways people get to a site. They get to it directly, or they get to it through a search engine. We call that organic search. So when you do a Google search, we see people coming into the site via searches. The direct pattern, which is shown in this lower third of the slide on the left-hand side, a direct link is just any link that doesn't come from organic search, okay? It could be somebody has put a link in a PDF file and somebody clicked on it. Could be somebody typing in a URL. In many cases, in the classroom, which is in the lower portion of the EDU pattern, is they come from learning management systems or LMSs. And so these are your Google Classroom, Canvas, Blackboard. There's many products that do that. And so we can look at those things directly as referrals. And what we see is we see a seasonality in the usage pattern. Well, if we take this seasonality plus some other parameters and look at our direct links, we can see a similar kind of pattern. And so it's that combination of the pattern and how people work with the site that allows us to say that 25% of that traffic is education related. Now there's another 50% that we see coming from organic search on the right-hand side, but they're viewing the employer-related pages. So we like to call that 50% the biotech curious. This can be job seekers, people interested in all of those companies. It's a great platform to do all kinds of research, and we're seeing people do a lot of different things. And why we're doing so well on organic search, part of that is how the data gets structured and appear on Google searches. We've learned that we have hundreds of terms, things people are looking for, where we appear on the first page of Google. So that's been very important for us. So, but the first audience, it wasn't because we had great SEO. It wasn't because people were finding us on Google. There were other things involved, and Sandy, you were really involved in that. Can you tell us about building an audience?
I can tell you that building an audience takes a lot of time and a lot of repetition. We're always making sure people know who we are. I've done a lot of presentations and demonstrations. I've made postcards that show people the top business areas in their states. But I think one of the most useful things that we were able to do is we got is the American Society for Biochemistry and Molecular Biology wrote an article about the site early on. And so we were able to hand that article out at meetings, and it gave us a lot of credibility in the area.
That's cool. Yeah, and then since then, we still do all of those things, but we also focus on how we rank high in Google. And so search engine optimization is the activity that focuses on that. And so it's a combination of keywords and structured data. Back in the old days, we always talked about keywords on your pages. Those aren't really used because people game that. But how you use keywords in phrases and sentences and titles is very important. And structuring your data accordingly helps you rise to the top in Google. And of course, Drupal has a module for structuring your data in this way. So it's the keywords and writing styles, but we're also on social media. So we just started a LinkedIn page in October, and that has over 1,200 followers now. And we're seeing traffic coming from LinkedIn. So that's kind of neat, because that's where a lot of the biotech curious hang out there. But when I talk about SEO, we learn things like biotech news can drive traffic. So in Stat Counter, we get a report on our popular pages, and the first two are usually pretty similar: Biotech Careers, the home page of the site, or the careers page. Those are the two favorites. But this third position is usually one of our blogs. Well, on this day, I noticed that it was Alzheimer's companies. And I was like, what's that all about? And I went to Google and I did an Alzheimer's biotech companies. And sure enough, we appeared number 5. But why did we see such a spike in the traffic? You can see in the graph that also comes from Stat Counter. Well, it turns out there was some news on around June 6th, 7th about Biogen and their Alzheimer's drug, and some controversy. So this prompted people to go onto Google and search for Alzheimer's companies, and then they found Biotech Careers, and hopefully they learned something interesting.
A lot of work has gone into the site, and we've been doing some things to look at how we can make the site sustainable. Can you talk about that?
I can. And it really has 3 parts. It's grants, partnerships, and sponsorships. So grants, that's how the site started. As Sandy talked about it starting with BioLink. We developed a grant as BioLink came to an end, and before Innovate Bio started, there was going to be a gap. We needed to bridge the BioLink's resources to Innovate Bio. One of those resources was Biotech Careers, which we saw having a future that could be sustained in its own right. So we started working on that. And we see that in the future, we can do biotech skills mapping, career recommendation, and we're starting to develop some games. So all of those can help further the site. We've also developed some really neat partnerships. One I'd like to point out is with Russ Reed and his skills for biomedical emerging technology applications, or beta skills, at Forsyth Technical College in North Carolina. The one thing we've done with him is add some of the capabilities that you just saw around the career pages and organizing taxonomy terms. So all of those keywords that we have for the biotech industry. That was one activity, but the other thing that's been very important are some of our blogs. If you go to Google and ask about what is a biomedical device, you're going to find Biotech Careers, and you're going to find a really neat article about what biomedical devices are and how they're combining regenerative medicine into new kinds of things that we put into people. So that's one of the things we do, because the platform is very good for Biotech Careers. Gets a lot of traffic, so we can help people get the word out and communicate to much larger audiences. And then the third leg of this stool is sponsorship. So how do we move away from grants? And we're learning how to work with people to post their jobs, to advertise their events, and do things that help another business or organization communicate and do their outreach. So I like to say the benefit is advertising, but the value is they're supporting education because they're supporting biotech careers. And so that's altogether, that forms really a model for career sites that we see, focusing on the students and helping the educators. The top, there were 3 really important things that Sandy, you learned from the early days and we put in. Maybe you can share.
Early on, before the site began, we had a focus group at one of the summer fellows meetings with BioLink. The students and teachers that attended that summer fellows group told us they wanted to know what the job titles meant, what people did on the job. They were especially interested in what they might earn if they pursued a job in biotechnology. And of course, they wanted to figure out where could they learn these skills and knowledge that would help them get a job and prepare them for the workplace. We also realized that students might want to know what people are like in biotechnology, what people working in the field think is important, and they wanted to know about exciting developments in the industry and what's cool. And we found that teachers and program managers wanted to know how the site could be used. They wanted to know, could they use the site in grant proposals? Would this help them learn what kinds of equipment to ask for? Could they use this? Could they leverage this information to look for more funding? So that's helpful for them as well. And Todd, you added some other features in response to other surveys, I believe.
Well, that's right. You know, one of the surveys we had, a big thing that jumped out was what companies are in my area. And that got me excited. With my 30 years of biotech industry experience, who doesn't want to know about the companies, right? And I found some sources to seed the database using those Drupal modules to import data. I was able to build a reasonably strong database early, and we learned about the keywords, and that was the beginning of that employer database, and it's just grown a lot since then. And then the last piece we've added is the job boards. Who's hiring? Where are they hiring? One of the things that always came up when I showed Biotech Careers to people was they would look at the site and go, where's the jobs? And so we have those added. So really what makes the site complete is all of these things together: the career descriptions, stories, content, the database, and the job boards. And altogether, it's making giving us a lot of ideas for what should be going into career sites. So with that, we wanted to thank you. There's some resources that will be in the slides, a PDF that you download, some links for teaching with Biotech Careers, the websites, of course. You can follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. And this wouldn't be possible without NSF and the ATE program. So they've been very instrumental in getting this off the ground and supporting some of the innovations. And then the National Center for the Biotechnology Workforce is the organization where Beta is. It's at Forsyth Technical Community College. And if you have questions, you can put them into chat. You can email us. And please do the survey. We like to do surveys because we want to know what people want in the site.
Thanks.
All right.
Oh.
So